Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's kick off with a story about a determined customer, a Honda Civic, and a whole lot of concrete, literally. What starts as a routine request at a neighborhood store quickly turns into a comedic showdown of stubbornness versus physics. As the concrete piles up, so does the tension, leading to an unforgettable parking lot spectacle. Buckle up for this weighty tale. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. When the customer is always wrong, the Honda Civic concrete catastrophe. I used to work in a neighborhood store that sold a variety of goods many years ago. I used to be the low-wage youngster who carried bulky items to people's cars. One day, while I was at work, I received a radio call informing me that a customer required 12 bags of concrete, each weighing 80 pounds. A pickup truck or anything similar backing up to our loading area is what I expected to see. Rather, I noticed a tiny Honda Civic waiting for me. I thought it was an error and requested the driver to move for a little while because I had someone coming to get many sacks of concrete. You can only imagine how shocked I was to learn that they were the client I'd been waiting for. Since I thought the roughly 1,000 pounds of concrete might be too much for such a little vehicle to properly manage, I asked the customer how much they wanted to take on each trip. The client was irate and demanded that they take it all at once. To ensure that I wouldn't be responsible for any damages, I hastily ran this by the store owner. I hurried back, told the customer I was sorry, and started packing the bags. The customer made a number of jokes while I was loading things up, saying that the customer's always right, and that I was too young and impressionable to realize that cars are built with a margin of safety. It soon became clear that the suspension had run out of play, but I simply stopped wondering about it at this point. The buyer cleared their back seat so that I could load that as well because I couldn't fit all of the luggage in the trunk. You could hear things rubbing as soon as you left the loading area. There was a loud crack of something breaking and then scraping as the car crossed the elevation difference between the lot and the road on its way out of the parking lot. In the car, I could see that the driver was upset. They exited after a time and examined their surroundings and underneath their vehicle. The man sheepishly begged for my cell phone since he wanted to make some calls and his had died. The man stayed in our lot for about an hour until his wife could come get him after a tow company arrived a short while later to retrieve the automobile. This story is a perfect example of how some people just refuse to accept the laws of physics or common sense. I mean, a Honda Civic is a concrete hauler? Seriously? The audacity of demanding all 1,000 pounds in one go and then lecturing you about car safety? That's next level delusion. The image of that car scraping its way out of the parking lot only to give up on life before even making it to the street is comedy gold. The suspension tapping out mid-mission? Predictable. The guy asking for your phone, though? Priceless. It's almost poetic that after all his talk, he still had to call for backup. Wife, tow truck, and all. Sometimes life just hands you these moments of karmic satisfaction. And our second story. 2 weeks off, an emergency, and the sweet loophole of PTO justice. I'd worked at corrections for years and had accumulated a lot of paid leave. So when I asked for 2 weeks off for a personal occasion, I was granted it because I'd done so months in advance. The 2 weeks passed far too quickly. To make the most of my time off, I'd planned my 2-week break such that it would lead into my 2 days off at the start and finish of the break. However, a significant family problem arose during my usual off days, so I requested an additional 2 days off to deal with the matter. Because we're only permitted to use 84 hours of leave in a single continuous block, due to our rotating written schedules and 12-hour shifts, this equated to 2 weeks. My direct supervisor informed me that she could not approve that. She also told me to come in the following day or face a written warning. I knew she was right, so I didn't fight. I walked up for my shift that night, and to my surprise, my captain had phoned in sick, so a relief captain took over for her. When my shift ended, I asked him if I may take the next day off. Given the length of time we'd worked together, he and I clicked, so he looked at my leave and timetable. He said, "You know, you got plenty of leave, right?" "Yes, I'm aware of that." take care of my business tomorrow, I only need a portion of it. No, I mean, you've got plenty of leave to take. And get rosters filled the next 2 weeks. He winked at me, so I stopped. Yeah, I just got off a 2-week vacation. At last, it clicked. We're only permitted to take 2 weeks off in a row. Nothing prevents us from taking 2 weeks off, come in for, say, an hour. After that, return home and take 2 more weeks off. After I did, he signed the document saying, it's not my shift. F that B. After handling my emergency literally the following day, which turned out to be less serious than we initially believed, I was able to take 2 more weeks off from work. It was fantastic. I was even more ecstatic when I returned from work and learned that this skipper had been replaced due to some sort of irresponsibility. The month was fantastic. Edit. The captain I worked for was fired. The captain everyone liked, who gave me the PTO, stayed for a couple more years before retiring. This story perfectly highlights how understanding workplace rules can play to your advantage. The relief captain's support and practical approach made a huge difference, turning an otherwise stressful situation into an opportunity for much-needed time off. The fact that your situation was resolved, you got your additional leave, and your rigid supervisor was removed feels like a fitting resolution to a poorly handled management issue. Well-earned breaks and some workplace justice. Now that's a satisfying outcome. And our last story. How my dad's rusty truck beat a bully neighbor. My dad lives in a hilly area where driveways have to zigzag up from the main road because the incline's too steep for anything straight. It's a peaceful little neighborhood and everyone generally gets along. Well, almost everyone. A few houses down from my dad's place lived an elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson. Sweetest people you'll ever meet. Until recently, they had the added bonus of a vacant lot next door. Peace and quiet. Then someone bought the lot and started construction. No big deal, right? That's life. Except this new owner decided he didn't need to follow basic decency or, property lines. One day, the Thompsons came home to see an excavator carving out a driveway that ran right across the corner of their land. At first, they thought, surely this is a mistake. But nope, after a polite conversation with the excavator operator, they learned that the new owner knew exactly what he was doing. The operator gave them the owner's number, so Mr. Thompson gave him a call. The conversation? Not great. The guy was defensive, claiming his driveway didn't cross the line, and even when Mr. Thompson pointed out the property markers, he doubled down, insisting the markers were wrong. Worse, he was outright rude, brushing Mr. Thompson off like he was just some nosy neighbor. Now the Thompsons are the kind of people who'd rather bake you cookies than start a fight, but even they have their limits. They confirmed the boundary markers again and tried reasoning with the guy one more time. Same result, rude denial. They didn't want to get into an expensive legal fight, but they also couldn't just let him walk all over them, literally. That's where my dad comes in. One evening, Dad ran into the Thompsons while walking the dog, and they told him the whole story. Can you believe it? Mr. Thompson said, shaking his head. We just don't know what to do. My dad hates bullies, especially when they target kind, defenseless people. That guy's a piece of work, Dad muttered as he walked back home. A couple of beers later, he had what he called a stroke of genius. He called the Thompsons that night. Hey, Mr. Thompson, Dad said, his voice full of mischief. You mind if I borrow your corner for a little project? What kind of project? Mr. Thompson asked, already chuckling. Well, I've got this old truck that's dying to take a nap right on that driveway of his. Mr. Thompson laughed. You're serious. Dead serious. But only if you're okay with it. Mrs. Thompson chimed in. Go for it. We'd love to see the look on his face. Early the next morning, Dad fired up his rusty old pickup, a beast of a thing that he kept around for dump runs, and parked it squarely across the driveway. He made sure it was entirely on the Thompsons' property, locked it up, and left a note in the window with his phone number. When the construction crew arrived, they found the truck blocking their way. One of the workers called Dad. Sir, we've got a truck here that's blocking our access. Can you move it? Nope, Dad replied cheerfully. It's parked on private property with the owner's permission. You're welcome to build a bridge over it, though. The guy sighed. You know we can't do that. Can we tow it? Not unless you want a trespassing and theft charge, Dad said, his tone turning icy. The crew didn't want to get in the middle of a dispute, so they packed up and called the new owner. He called the Thompsons in a rage. "You can't just block my driveway," he shouted. "Your driveway," Mrs. Thompson said sweetly. "You mean the one on our land?" "You're being unreasonable," he barked. "Funny, we were just thinking the same thing about you," she replied and hung up. The stalemate dragged on for a couple of days. The construction crew wouldn't come back until the driveway issue was resolved, and the new neighbor clearly couldn't bully the Thompsons into submission. Finally, he caved. He called the Thompsons and begrudgingly offered them money for an easement. "Double what you're offering," Mr. Thompson said, "and I want it in writing." The new owner sputtered but eventually agreed. The Thompsons ended up with a tidy sum of cash for the easement, and Dad got several cases of beer as a thank you. Every time Dad pops open one of those beers, he raises it in a toast to crappy neighbors and rusted trucks. They get the job done. Oh man, your dad's a legend. This is the kind of petty brilliance that makes you want to cheer. It's not just about blocking the driveway. It's about standing up for kindness and saying, "Nope, not today, buddy." What's hilarious is how the neighbor tried to steamroll the Thompsons like they just roll over and let him take what wasn't his. But your dad, he didn't just throw a wrench into the guy's plans, he dropped a whole rusty pickup on him. The best part? The construction crew was like, "We're out. Good luck, dude." The Thompsons walking away with double the cash, and your dad with a beer stash worthy of a hero? Honestly, this is the kind of story that gives hope to anyone stuck dealing with entitled neighbors. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.